Live from the pitch pad in New York City. Get ready to unleash your inner entrepreneur with Hitch Live with Amy Summers. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the Shark Tank, this is the place to be to discover how to turn your pitch into reality. Fasten your seatbelts, pitch stars, because the spotlight is on you and we are about to make success happen. On this episode of Pitch Live,
I think that if you are confident, you can do anything. You can, honestly, I have watched and helped kids that have done things through confidence that, in my opinion, they probably didn't know they could do and probably wouldn't have done without. I really try to instill and I try to be this kind of light that pushes them and gives them this oomph of positivity that they can do it.
Get ready for Pitch Live in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Pitch Live. I'm your host, Amy Summers, founder and president of Pitch Publicity and Vox. I'm also a hardworking entrepreneur who is passionate about helping you reach success in any area of your life. And I know that is possible after decades of experience in perfecting the pitch and enhancing communication skills, which is why I'm here today and joined by Geoffrey Hesslink, who is one of the nation's leading hunter riders and top trainers in the equestrian world. Welcome, Geoffrey.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you join us today. I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, pitching in the equestrian world, why is that relevant? But I'm excited to learn from you. Before I get into your very prestigious bio, however, I wanted just to do a quick rapid fire round that I did not give you a heads up about, if that's okay with you.
Sounds good.
Just so people can kind of get to know your personality before we get into all the details that are always in the headlines and on the covers of magazines. I'm going to give you 2 choices. Just pick one, whatever first one that comes to mind.
Good.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right. Horses or humans?
Horses.
Okay. Sushi or bananas?
Bananas.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Boots or gloves?
Boots.
Washington, D.C. or Wellington, Florida?
Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Yeah.
And gym or brunch?
Brunch, for sure.
Now I know we're vibing. We'll be fine now. I was hoping you would say French. All right, so Geoffrey's journey into the sport is an inspiring one. He's had a lot of success. After a childhood accident ended his competitive swimming career, horseback riding became a form of physical therapy and ultimately his life's passion. From earning his first national title at the USEF Talent Search Finals East in 2014 and capturing prestigious victories like the 100,000 WCHR East Coast and Midwest Hunter Spectacular, Geoffrey has built an impressive career in the saddle, scoring top honors at the USHJA International Derby Finals, as well as many leading hunter rider honors and national championships. So this is my very first conversation with Geoffrey, but I know of him and have followed his work because my cousin's daughter, KG Giles, who's also an equestrian, and creates some of Geoffrey's social media content, which you can follow at Geoffrey Hesslink and at Hesslink.Williams on Instagram. And after hearing from KG about some of the innovative approaches Geoffrey has taken in his horse training business and mentoring students like her, I was really intrigued in having you come on the Pitch Live podcast. Geoffrey is a co-owner of Hesslink Williams in Wellington, Florida, alongside his partner, Brendan Williams. Geoffrey has cultivated a training program centered on trust, communication, and the well-being of both horse and rider. And today he's here to share his story, the philosophy behind his training, and what it takes to succeed in a highly competitive equestrian world. So welcome, Geoffrey. I'm excited to jump right in and learn about pitching horses because I've never done that exactly. So let's just start. You know, my audience is probably different than the ones that you're in front of a lot of time. You're in front of horse and equestrian people all the time, so I know they get into the nitty gritty right away. But I want to back up a little bit, and for just our audience of maybe entrepreneurs and students and people that may not know that much about your world, can you dispel some myths for us? So, if you were a horse's publicist, what would you make sure that everyone knew about them that might be misunderstood outside the equestrian world?
That's a great one. I think from the outside looking in the equestrian community, there can sometimes be a gap or a number of people who don't understand or have a lack of understanding of the horse itself. I personally feel like horses love to work, they love their job, they love to jump. Whatever the horse's job or career is, there's many different avenues for horses in this community. I think it's easy to think that, why would horses want to do that? Or horses aren't meant to jump or do this or that. There's obviously a large community of animal welfare out there, which I'm all for. But I would say I would love to just squash the myth that horses don't like doing with their job or they weren't brought into this world to do this. I think they're one of the most intelligent animals. And I personally feel like horses love to work and jump and honestly perform. I think our sport is a lot of performances, and I think it brings them just as much joy and fulfillment as it does for us.
Well, that makes me feel so much better being a proclaimed workaholic because
Yeah,
to know that horses don't mind working too.
yeah, I
Um,
really love it.
no, I like the way that you explain that. That's very helpful because I mean, just like us, we're not all meant to be on vacation all day. So why would
Yeah,
we expect our animals just to be hanging out in the fields, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, Now, also for our audience, can you explain what it means to be a hunter rider and what drew you to that specific area of equestrian sports? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I specifically ride in the English kind of section of riding and show jumping per se. And there's a few different categories of that. There's equitation, which is for the short term kind of explanation judged on the rider. And then there's show jumping, which is the Olympic level, which is what most people or non-horse people would be familiar with, where you jump kind of really large jumps and there's a time allowed involved. And the object of that is there is no judged element. It's specifically judged on faults. So kind of like a race. The hunter section, which is what I specialize in most of my business, is judged primarily on the horse, and that any rider can compete in junior, amateur, professional. There's a number of classes and divisions for that. I would say most students in America start in the hunters, even if they do end up in the jumper ring in the end. And it's judged on the horse. So the reason I was drawn to it, I did not have a lot of money growing up. I didn't have a lot of opportunity. And that was sort of where I got catch rides or opportunities to learn and to ride. So I was always in the hunter ring. And over my career, I've just learned and really grown a fondness for it. I think that hunters and doing hunters well, it's an art form. There's a beauty and a poetry to it. And to do hunters well takes a lot of everything on you and the horse and your team. And I think to do it well is a real testament to you as a horseman and the program you have behind you. So that is why I kind of specialize in that, and it's my for sure my passion.
Now, equestrian is one of the few sports where men and women compete as equals. Is that right?
Yes, yep.
And but when I was doing my research and preparing for this podcast, I noticed that, and you can tell me if this is correct or not. Are men not allowed to compete in NCAA equestrian sports then on the collegiate level, or?
Correct. On the collegiate level, there's NCAA, which is obviously kind of the more mainstream, higher level, I would say. It definitely has kind of more prestige in terms of the college riding community. And then there's an IHSA level, which is, I would say, a little bit below, just in terms of like horse quality and the show circuit that they have. However, men are allowed to ride IHSA. I was personally offered a full scholarship to ride in college for an IHSA school. I turned that down because I thought my professional career in the industry would be a little bit more beneficial to me. Yeah, but NCAA, they don't allow men to ride in, I think, because of Title IX or something to do with that, which is unfortunate. But I do understand that to an extent. But I am glad there are a number of men that age out as a junior rider and go to school and ride in IHSA, and there are scholarships available, which I think is great.
So you mentioned that you turned down a scholarship. So what made that decision for you, or what was the deciding factor in doing that? And then looking back now, do you feel like you made the right decision?
I 100% think I made the right decision. Have never questioned it one day in my life. I do sometimes wonder what the college experience would have been like and if I would have had fun in terms of that and kind of had a different community of friends to grow up with. But I've never questioned my decision. Yeah, I was given a full scholarship after I won the USET finals in 2014 to go to Savannah College of Art and Design, which is obviously a great school. I had a number of friends go there, and I was on the fence for a long time. Obviously, my parents kind of heavily pushed me in that direction and really wanted me to kind of see that through. But I just had this lingering feeling in the back of my head and my heart, really, that to be quite honest, I'd seen a number of my friends who also had major success as a junior rider take that um, kind of avenue and go to the college riding team. And they were wonderful riders with tons of talent and, huge futures ahead of them. And I do think that the ones that were committed to it definitely got where they wanted to be in the end. But I saw firsthand a number of friends and other peers that would go to school after these kind of major illustrious junior careers with huge wins and kind of this overall respect from the community. And that was on like every level. Professionals, older generation kind of had this respect because being a junior rider and having success as a junior rider is very hard and very few riders do it. And I found that when after college, again, whether they had success in college riding or not, it was hard to integrate back into the community. I felt like they lost their kind of, say, respect or sparkle that they had when they were like this shining junior rider. And I personally felt like it took me so long and a lot of hard work to achieve my goals and kind of earn that respect. And it just made no sense to me to take 4 years away from the community that I was trying to so hardly be accepted by. So a week before I was supposed to move in, I made the decision and I just said, I really, really don't believe that this is the right thing for me. And I never looked back.
Were your parents freaking out?
They totally were. They were like, oh my God,
Parents
I
always
can't
want you to
believe
go to
it. It's
college.
free. Like, just go try it, give it a chance. And I just said, no, I really believe in my heart of hearts this is the right thing for me. So
Okay, so let's talk about that path. Because someone might decide to do this. So instead of college, where did you land? Did you keep doing competition, or like what was the path exactly that led you to now owning your own business?
yeah, I had a number of jobs kind of therefore after. You kind of ride as a junior rider up until you're 18 years old, and then you kind of are either forced to become an amateur rider or a professional rider. I quickly turned professional, and so therefore could get a job working for other barns. So I kind of bounced around from actually worked for the one barn that I rode with as a kid for a number of years. I rode for a number of other barns that I had respected and wanted to like learn from. And I tried to take the best things from each of those and definitely learned a ton and got a ton of experience and exposure. There was a lot of opportunity for me as a young rider to kind of ride younger horses or greener horses and help them develop. There wasn't a lot of opportunity for maybe finished or kind of like championship level horses. And I did that for about 4 years and I liked it and it was fun. And I think having no responsibility of having my own business or that sort of stress was nice. But every single job I went to, I knew how I wanted to do things and how I wanted it to be done. And I could like see it and taste it. And I was like, I understand that this isn't my business, but I really think we should do this or we should do that. Or, again, look, try to take the best things from each program, but there were definitely things I didn't agree with or wanted done differently. And so one day I just said, you know what? I've had enough. I'm going to step away from working and helping other people. And I kind of took a chance and started freelancing and just sort of helping people that wanted me to ride their horses, kind of with no commitment or job level, until I had enough money to eventually start my own business.
I like how you describe that because when I started my company, Pitch Publicity, in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I always have students come to me now because they wanna start a business in their 20s,
Right.
and they ask me how to do that. Of course, I went to college, but I didn't go to business school. I did not get a degree in entrepreneurship that they have now, but I
Hmm.
always tell students, "Go work for
Yeah.
other people, and you will learn so much," and I feel like that's what I'm hearing from you is that um, you took a different route. You didn't do the 4 years in college, but that 4 years you spent as a professional, you were also studying these other businesses and what they were doing. Can you elaborate a little bit on just because I know there are those things that you're like, "Oh, I would have done this differently." Can you tell us, for example, like, what are some of the gaps that you saw or things that you felt could be improved without naming any of the other businesses, obviously, but, like, what was kinda ticking off in your mind at that point?
Yeah, I just again, I grew up doing equitation, so I feel like I had a very good basis of general riding and position, but again, had a passion for hunters and how that's done well and how you can make horses be so beautiful and seamless and smooth. And, horses are athletes, but to make them go beautifully and seamlessly and elegantly does take a lot of management and preparation. So, a lot of the things that I wanted to change or do myself or manage better were in the horses' work schedules, preparation, vet work, feed, care, sort of general management, I would say, of the horses. I just had an idea in my head of what I think could have done better. A lot of barns, I felt like a lot of the barns I worked for did a lot of those things well. And I would say maybe one barn had the exercise and the fitness of the horses down really well, but maybe they lacked in the nutrition and the diet of the horse. Or one barn maybe had two of those things. They were great at working fitness, they were great at the nutrition, but in my opinion, really lacked in vet care because obviously horses are performance animals, just like human athletes need regular joint injections, as well as kind of really, massages and acupuncture and sort of things that real athletes need. Horses need the same. So I try to really manage their veterinary, farrier, feed, and fitness programs very diligently. And I would say those were the main points where I just saw gaps. And I just would think to myself, I would ride at this horse and I would say, oh, he needs this or oh, he needs that. And I really think this would help him. And so, again, it wasn't my business nor my place really to voice that in any way, really. And so the whole time I was like, I know if I was in charge and I could make those calls, I really think I have something here. So that was sort of my thoughts.
Really sounds like you're choreographing a ballet with horses
Yeah.
almost, like, they're athletic, but it also has to come off very graceful, and
Yeah.
now did you ever, you suggested these things to the barns that you're working, did you get pushback because it's like, "No, this is the way we do it?" Is that kind of what you were encountering at that time?
No, I would say most of the programs I worked for were open to it and may have done or tried some of the things that I said, but like you sort of alluded to a few moments ago, being 20 some odd years old and maybe not having as much experience as an older generation or the people that I was working for, I think one of the major struggles I felt not only working for people, but then also when I started my own business was having the respect and kind of really believing in what I was saying because they were sort of like, well, you're like a 20-year-old, you just turned professional, you're young, you're this, you're that. So that was definitely a struggle I felt not only working for people, but also in the early stages of my business developing. Just kind of being accepted by that older generation. I would say, again, most kids in this space being professional do go to college or step away from it. So I was definitely one of the only kids my age that was having success in the professional space.
Yeah, you were definitely tracking earlier than them because of the route you took.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I remember never telling anyone my age because as soon as I did that, I mean, that plus I was a woman, it was like XX, she
Yeah.
has no idea what she's talking about. Now when people ask my age, I also don't wanna tell them, but that's for another reason, so
Yeah.
all right, so let's get into the business part then. So, you were kind of seeing all these things and you mentioned earlier how expensive it is to even be a writer. I
Yeah.
can't imagine the expense it is to own a business in this industry. How did you start your business? Did you have to get investors, or how did that work?
It's a good question. I was and have always been so lucky with the people that surround me and choose to ride with me. You mentioned earlier I did have a accident when I was younger, which made me start riding horses, and then I had another accident riding horses, and that was actually just started my business. It had been like the first or second week, and I broke my leg at the Hampton Classic jumping in a Grand Prix, and that was obviously very traumatic. We were obviously not in the financial position to have that happen, mainly with me being the rider and being the main reason of income and why people would want to come and support our business. So when I came back, actually, no, when I was rehabbing from that broken leg, I received two phone calls from two families that have ridden with me to this day. Very wealthy families that support the industry heavily that didn't know that I was available or free to help them in any way. But when I broke my leg and I was stepped away, took the chance and called me and said, "Hey, we know this happened. Would you be open or interested in helping us in this sort of weird time for you?" So I do really believe that everything happens for a reason. It was the craziest thing. I got in an airplane with my broken leg and went and met with these families who ended up being great customers of mine, clients, and now their daughters have actually both stepped away to Princeton University. So now they are mainly owners for myself, so own professional horses for me to ride. So they were really the groundbreaking of my business. Really, like financially, they had a number of horses. Their daughters rode at a very, very, very high level. They supported my professional career, and then from there, I always tried to build a brand for my business. I wanted it to be kind of higher end, boutique, um, one-on-one personalized attention, not only to the horses, but also to the clients that choose to ride with me. And so from that, I really tried to stick to that branding, and that family really helped me do that. And then from there, I've been very lucky to have a number of very similar situations, very, very wealthy families that either their children ride or they want to own and watch horses develop and show in this world. I'm lucky enough to ride the horses that my clients have. So that's sort of how the business has shaped itself into what it is today.
That's great. And you
Yeah.
say lucky a lot, but I just want to point out that I think that probably this has a lot to do with your very hard work because I just know myself, like people are not going to invest in somebody or something that they don't know, that aren't going to perform.
Yeah.
So you say lucky, but I want to say also, I
Thank
have
you.
a feeling it has a lot to do with your dedication, your hard work. They see that in you and getting those clientele, like in the beginning of your business, having kind of that base is a great place to build from. You mentioned boutique. I want to talk about that a little bit because when I was doing some research on your company, I saw some conversations on Reddit and they were like asking questions about your company and like, why does he just have, or why do they just have a couple of, horses? And then somebody else was explaining, well, that's how it is. So can you explain like boutique is in this in the equestrian world, are there some barns that have, like, they're massive and they're huge and some that are smaller?
Yes. So like I said earlier, some of the barns I grew up riding with and working with um, would have upwards of 70 to 100 horses in
Wow.
their business at any given time. And so again, I would say that was one thing that I took away that I did not ever want to have. I'm a very hands-on person. I'm very organized, and like I touched on, try to manage things to the best of my ability. And I do think that is where a lot of my horses and my students and my own success has come from. And I just constantly saw it's just impossible to be able to, I mean, for one, ride or be involved in 100 horses a day. That's just not feasible. And with that, I think I was told early on in my career, and I do believe this to be true, with the more horses you have, it involves more staff, it involves more grooms, it involves more stalls, it involves more everything. So
And the
I like to think
quality
of it.
just goes down and down and down.
Exactly. Quality goes down. There are things that slip through the cracks. It is physically impossible to have the same level of attention to detail and management as it is to have with 100 horses. I don't care how much staff you have. So I always think there's this magic number. I like to hover around 20, 30 horses at any given time. I really feel like I can have a good grasp on them. That includes me riding them myself, teaching them myself, and really like being a part of their career where I worked in those other barns and saw it firsthand. I felt like the horses a little bit suffered, and I thought the personalization one-on-one time was way less. And so that's what I tried to exemplify in my business. So I'd like to think of it as, like you said, fewer number of horses, but the quality is much better, and those horses have my full attention at all times.
So you're highly selective with clients and horses and students and
Yes.
everyone that you're working with because you can
Yes.
be. You
Yep.
don't have this humongous machine that you have to continue to feed.
Exactly.
Let's get into a little bit about pitching. So what areas in your business now? You have your business. I see you're very active on Instagram. So obviously you have to keep that persona out there because I mean your name's all over it, right? They're looking at you.
Yeah.
Where do you find yourself pitching, promoting yourself, or using that skill in your line of work?
Yeah. I would say one thing that I really pitch myself for with my clients, and maybe the more correct term is owners. But in this sport, obviously, I would say primarily this is created for the clientele or the customer. So in a lot of cases, like I explained earlier, most wealthy families, equestrian obviously is like this elite kind of well-known, in the world sport that you need to be wealthy, and it involves some sort of I don't know, status in some way. So, like I said, I'm selective, but I've been very lucky to work with wealthy families who a lot of the times buy horses and expensive horses for their children, right? For them to have the highest level of success, for them to achieve their goals, whether that be hunter, equitation, or jumper. Um, and so that's great because I do get opportunity to show and ride those horses and manage them myself. And I do get some most opportunity from those horses. However, I do find myself pitching a lot of the time too. When I built my career enough, I really wanted to extend it more and give myself the chance to have horses for myself. So that's more professional. I call those professional horses, specifically only for professionals. So whether that's kind of greener horses and younger horses that I believe in and develop, hopefully into something that maybe one day their children would ride, or something that we would buy as an investment at hopefully a lesser cost and make up and sell for a lot of money. Or if it's a horse I really believe in and I want to produce in my career, pitching myself to an owner or my client to buy the horse for myself, to see it through and give me that opportunity. So I would say that's my biggest pitch to the community in terms of my clients and owners. Another is, like you touched on, social media. I think that this community has a lot of social media presence in different ways. And I was one of the first professionals to start getting paid by brands, or get brand deals, sponsorship, things like that. Sponsorship was common. I would say most brands would give product or whatever it was to the rider or trainer in return for promotion on social media or whatever that may be. However, I have a close friend and helps me manage my media and my brand myself. And there was this gap in this world where this is such a wealthy industry with so much money, resources, and extremely wealthy brands and things that go along with it. And why isn't it being treated like a normal athlete would in a different sport? whether it's basketball or baseball or soccer, where you get paid and financial benefit from those brands for promoting those. So I was the first paid influencer or professional, whichever you would like to call it, for the helmet brand that I ride with, the boot brand that I ride with, the saddle brand that I ride with. And I think at first there was some pushback, but I think that's the direction the industry is going in, and there's so much more money and so much more social media presence nowadays, and I think it's warranted, and I think it's cool. So I definitely had to pitch myself to those companies at first to really, say, if you want my brand and my name and my reputation involved and representing your products at all time. I have many brands that approach me and offer me product for free or would like to try it or this, that, and the other. But if you want me to commit to you and this be my brand with your brand, I need the commitment from you in a financial way. So that was another way that I think I pitched myself.
Thank you for sharing the pitch with
Yeah.
us too, as well. I like that. I
Yeah.
mean, because honestly, how many free helmets and gloves can you use, right?
Exactly.
After
Exactly.
a while.
Right.
Um, all right. So, your pit and I like what you said about pitching, the owners, you're really pitching them. It sounds like you're pitching them to buy these horses and as an investment for them. Is
Yeah.
that okay? It's almost like you're doing high level recruiting for like you would a sports team.
Exactly. Exactly.
Do you have to also are you part of the purchasing the horse? Is that on the other side? Do you have to go in and convince somebody to let you buy the horse over maybe some other barn?
Oh, yeah. 100%. I would say 80 to 90% of the horses in my stable were not for sale or not available. And like I said, I take a lot of pride in my management and my program. And I do think that many people in the community respect and know that their horse would be going to a great home and probably would have immense success, whether that be with me or a student of mine. So again, yeah, pitching a lot to the people we're buying the horse from, the people that are buying the horse. But I do think I have a great reputation in picking horses, selecting them, and developing them well. So I think there's a big trust there between not only the buyer, but the seller.
Because there's certain ones that you spot that are like special, and
Yes,
I'm sure they're highly sought after. Can you give us an example of like how you would pitch to them that this horse belongs in your barn?
yeah. Many of my horses, I would say, had kind of small success or success with their previous owners, but I was always told, a horse is worth as much as someone is willing to pay for it, which I think is true. So again, I'm very lucky with the people that are behind me and in my stable. They can obviously afford to do this at a high level. But I've seen firsthand whether the horse be 200,000 or $1 million. I really think that I am able to bring out the best in the horse and their performance level. So again, whatever the range is of the purchase price of that horse, I do think that, and we have been able to really increase that value, whether that be 200,000 or $1 million. So even though obviously writing a check for $1 million for a horse is a huge investment and risk, and it's an animal and there's all of that involved, but I do think that I've been really time and time again able to produce them to the best of their ability, not only in results wise, but in resale and kind of giving them the best career they can have for as long as they can have it.
So you're really pitching your training techniques that you're gonna, okay, yes, I'm gonna bring this horse in, I'm gonna bring it up
Yeah,
to another level. It's not gonna go
exactly.
down.
All of my
It's
horses
not
have
gonna
talent
downgrade.
and like have this something special about them, but I really think I'm able to kind of channel that and bring out it more often and more consistent in them, I think is a good way to put it.
All right, so before we get off the pitching, because we've talked about how you pitch owners and how you pitch barns, and I just wanna know, I mean, this might be a silly question, but do you have to ever pitch a horse on, "Hey, we're gonna do a new exercise routine." Do you ever have to convince a horse, and
Oh yeah.
how do you pitch a horse?
Well, again, I'm so lucky with the horses I get to work with. They're so talented, so smart, and so amazing. But yeah, I think a lot of working with horses, like I said, they're so intelligent. And so a lot of my training is, well, one, the main thing I focus on is fitness. So to keep a horse and an athlete fit is the most important thing. However, I do find that the job can be very kind of deja vu feeling. It's the same thing over and over for years and years and years. So I always try to introduce them to like different things, what will make their mind kind of, think differently and approach that in a way where either whether it's like a trail ride or we go and ride off property or not in the ring or an exercise that they don't really do that often, maybe more jumper exercise class, or sometimes even with my hunters, which is, I would say, not that common. I would even take them in a jumper class, which is kind of like a
Mm.
completely different atmosphere altogether. So it's a much different feeling for them. But I think keeping them mentally sharp and always thinking is why they're going to perform their best. So yeah, definitely always pitching new stuff to them, trying to keep them sharp and thinking, I think is the most important.
I like that, and I was gonna really refrain from bringing up my dog in this conversation, so I'm only gonna do it once. But I have a boxer, and I'm currently rehabbing her because she had a spinal cord injury last year, and she's doing great, but we're working with a sports medicine vet, and it's funny that you say that because, this new sports medicine vet that I'm working with her on has her doing all these different exercise, right? So we have, like she has to do the cones before she eats, but now she'll like it doesn't take long for them to learn, and
Right.
she just sits at the cones because she's ready to eat. She's like, "Let's do this." So
Right.
I'm constantly have to introduce new exercises because they do like get used to things so
100%.
fast and so easily. And I
Yes.
guess it's not any different for horses.
Yeah. Very similar.
Um, all right. So I want to talk about how you work with students because I found that to be really interesting. So you have mentioned in previous interviews and articles that I've read up on you about that when you were kind of coming up in the ranks as a junior, there was a certain way that you were being trained, and you saw some gaps, and you are approaching training as students differently. Can you explain, what new things that you're doing when it comes to training students that's
Yeah.
a new experience for them?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. It's something I have taken a long time to develop for my own skill set, and it's something I take really seriously. So yes, in my junior career, I rode, I would say primarily for two barns. For a number of years as a child into my teenage years, I rode with a barn based in Florida. And I would say this trainer had a more negative way of training and looking at things, and I felt like I was not only not growing, but I was digressing. I felt like I was getting worse. I felt like I had no chance of doing this, no chance of winning, no chance of this being my career. And so I don't know what made me do this, but I went to my parents and I said, I need to move barns. I know that this is, my parents are, no one in my family is a horse person whatsoever. So really did not have a lack of understanding, did not know why, didn't really get what I was saying, but I was like, I need to move barns. I don't know. I just need to move, and they believed me and supported me. And so I moved from a barn that was based in Florida to a barn that was based in New York. In my last few years as a junior, so I would think I was 15 or 16. And I think I was drawn to this trainer specifically because of his teaching style. I had watched him, I had watched his students, and I had watched what he had done for so many years, and I was really drawn to it. And I would say he was a big mentor of mine. His name was Andre Dignelli. Um, and when I started training with him, I noticed almost an immediate change in myself. His method of training was way more positive, way more constructive, very clear, and I would say non-emotional in the best way. You would make a mistake or you would do it good. And there was this consistency to what I knew and how I knew he was going to react to whatever I did, whether it was a mistake or whether it was done well. And that combined with like his positive reinforcement really resonated with me. And I do not think I would have been able to win that national championship without that. And I know that that is what kind of made me the rider I am today. So I was lucky enough to live through that firsthand. So when I became a professional and more specifically a trainer, when my business started growing, that was one thing that I wanted to not only emulate, but make a priority in my training. So I would say, first and foremost, I have found with multiple kids at all different levels of riding, whether it's smaller or older or whatever, honestly, discipline you do, equitation jumper or hunter, I found the most important thing in success and in this sport and having fun and a positive experience was confidence. And that's something that I live by. I think that if you are confident, you can do anything. You can, honestly, I have watched and helped kids that have done things through confidence that, in my opinion, they probably didn't know they could do and probably wouldn't have done without it. So it's something I really try to instill, and I try to be this kind of light that pushes them and gives them this oomph of positivity that they can do it. And I found that to be really, really successful for us.
I love that you mentioned your mentor and how you kind of drew inspiration from that, but that you
Yeah.
also had the way that to not to do it too, and you could recognize, um, both
Yeah.
and develop your own leadership style. When you're
Yeah.
building confidence in your students, what are some tangible ways that you build confidence? Can you give us an example of what you might do to someone who's maybe just starting out with you? Like what would be a starter to get their confidence built?
Yeah. I know I did this myself, but I think a lot of kids in this sport, again, we're working with animals. So, right, this is not like a normal sport where it's like, oh, you swung and missed the ball or missed the net or whatever it may be. You're working with another living being. So things are going to happen. Things are going to go awry. Things are not going to go as planned. But the beauty of the sport, and I think where the people that have the most success are able to know that, be okay with it, and have the ability to work through it quickly and again, non-emotionally. We're working with horses. So um, I really try to keep an even keeled, whether that's training or showing. Obviously, we're super excited when it goes well, and I think that
Mhm.
happiness is again the reason what drives us to do this. But people are going to make mistakes. Horses are going to make mistakes again more often than not, and I think being okay with that and giving maybe some tips to improve upon is the way to approach it versus getting upset or mad that the horse did this or the horse did that. That's how I try to think about it.
That's great.
Yeah.
What if a student's coming to work with you for the first time? What should they expect when working with you?
Yeah,
Or
I
what
think
what should they
yeah.
know about you before they start working with you?
Well, I hope they know that I am good with taking a rider wherever they are in their career, whatever that may be. I've had riders that have come to ride with me that had just had really serious falls, and not only is their confidence down, but they are scared. They are not really in the right headspace to do this. This is again a pretty, in the scheme of things, dangerous sport. So I think safety is another thing that I really try to emphasize. I think if you feel safe, again, with confidence, you can really do a lot on a horse. So again, that kind of comes back into preparation. But I would hope that they would come and expect or know that they can make mistakes. And I just want to see how they ride and what they ride like, and I wanna see them kind of raw and what they have to bring to the table, and then we work from there. We'll make a plan, we will grow, and we will hopefully reach some goals that, fulfill what they wanna accomplish in this.
Do you find in those mistakes that when people do make mistakes, they learn quicker because they're learning from them
I
faster?
do, I think positive mistakes are great. I think the number one thing I see when people come to ride with me or are new to me or don't know me that well is you sort of make a mistake and it's almost like they like look back and they're waiting to see my response. Am I going to be mad? Am I going to be happy? Am I going to say something? And I think I try to make it an organic space where we're riding horses. Things are going to happen. I want you to do it, learn from it, and hopefully you can come back around the next time and learn from that mistake. Again, there's a lot I can say and do and help coach you through it, but this is an instinct sport, and you riding to be able to think through that yourself is more important than making the mistake and then looking to me for what's the right answer. What should I have done differently? I think, again, like I said, you're on a horse, things happen in the blink of an eye, and the ability to feel safe and confident through those mistakes is my biggest thing I'm trying to instill.
I love that you say try to stay non-emotional, and
Yeah.
then you're just there to provide the feedback. Those are
Yeah.
really good tips for, I think, all of us as leaders to remember in any job that we're doing, because emotions sometimes moves people to a different level, and they don't learn from it. They're so worried about being in trouble or not doing it right.
Exactly.
This has been so enlightening to speak with you, Geoffrey. Thank you so much for joining us today. What's the best way for our community to connect with you, to learn about what you're doing? Or maybe there's a student out there that's wanting to be mentored by you. How would they connect?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. It's Geoffrey Hesslink, and those are my social media platforms. And yeah,
All right. Well, Geoffrey, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that you have inspired so many people in your career journey and that you're just going to continue to do so. And I want to encourage everyone to share this episode so we can get more people exposed and inspired to all the amazing things that Geoffrey is doing. And be sure to connect with him on IG at Geoffrey Hesslink, also TikTok and Facebook at the same handle, and at hesslink.williams to learn more about his barn and his business. Thank you again, Geoffrey, for coming on and enlightening us on the equestrian world and horses.
thank you for having me. It was such a blast.
All right. And thank you for joining us on this episode of Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and give us a rating or review. Your feedback helps us plan future episodes. I hope you were inspired today to get out there to pitch. I would just say to get on a horse, maybe just get on a horse and build some confidence, even if this is not
Exactly.
going to be your profession, right, Geoffrey? Like,
Exactly.
go ride a horse. That'll build some confidence. And also just to advocate for yourself and for our beautiful animals that are out there. We need to advocate for them too. As a bonus, join us at emisivox.com where you can get motivated, hone your communication skills, and binge as much mentorship as you want whenever you need it. The link's going to be in our show notes, along with all of my social media handles and Geoffrey's. So let's stay connected and support each other in success. And until next time, MSH, Geoffrey, we always say on this show, make shit happen. And it definitely sounds like you have done that. But I'm sure in your business, make shit happen means something totally different.
Yeah.
So we will stick with you. We're going to just call it make success happen. I think that works
Great.
better for an
Thanks.
equestrian podcast. All right. Thank you, Geoffrey.
Thank you so much.